I stood by, idly in the middle of the entrance of a crowded amusement park by myself. I could feel my body shaking uncomfortably as groups would often glance at me as they passed by, probably because they recognized me out of my hero costume. There were so many people around, I just wanted to disappear, and my anxiety would drown me a bit more every time a family would come up and ask me for pictures. I had hoped that no one would realize Sun Eater was out of work, so I wouldn't have to deal with any socializing. Whenever I'd lock eyes with someone, I'd simply turn and walk the other way, praying that they got the message. I wasn't up for any discussions that day. I hadn't seen Yin since the night that the crazy fans, and I felt like I could have used that time to chat with her. When I told Muriel I was becoming more acquainted with Yin, he proposed to invite all of us to the new park near our part of the city. And even though I told Tokuda he shouldn't bother Yin, since she probably had lots of work to do, the thought of hanging out with her was tempting, even if the place was known to be crowded during the weekends. I wanted to take my chances to see Yin again, though I still couldn't believe she even said yes to our outing, considering we were only just acquaintances. But I guess we technically aren't, since we know heroes by many. And both Muriel and Nejire said they were going along as well with Yin during our interview. A few minutes later passed before I started to get nervous. Again. Nejire had said that I should go wait for Yin while Muriel and her look around for a ride. Hado told me to idly near the entrance while she and Togeda stood by somewhere else. I don't know what Nejire was planning in her head, but when she told me that, because she giggled towards as if she planned it. But what's even crazier is that I agreed to it. Hado knew how much I hated being left alone in such packed places, but she knew I couldn't refuse. Eventually, Yin wound up at the entrance of the amusement park, just a few minutes after we arrived. I stopped her as we walked around her. I stopped her as she looked around her surroundings. This was probably the first time she's been to this amusement park. I stared at Yin's back as she tried to find one of us among the crowd. I gulped, slowly walking towards her. Just walk up to her, Amajiki, I told myself. You got this. You just say what you mean. It's not that hard. I kept replying what I was going to say to her over and over again, while I waited for Yin so I wouldn't mess up in front of her and embarrass myself. Though, when she turned around and noticed me, she stammered towards me with a kind smile. No, I don't got this, oh God. I had forgotten everything I was going to say to her in that moment. I laid eyes on her. Her cute outfit and the style of her hair somehow made my heart skip a beat. Just the simple things, like seeing her after a long time, made me uneasy. Somehow Yin seemed different when she wasn't in her work clothes. I was seeing her in her casual clothing, and right there, and I knew this wasn't going to be normal. This was a real outing, and I just knew. The real Yin, not just the patient journalist who interviewed me that day. And she was about to meet the real me. I suddenly felt sick to my stomach upon realization, and I could feel my knees getting numb and my lips quivering from nervousness. When I saw her, my mind went blank, and I kept muttering random words I didn't even know the meaning of. I even thought of chickening out, but it was too late. Hey, Tamaki, she greeted. How are you? Yin's gentle smile was like an arrow piercing through my heart, making me unable to look at her in the eyes. I'm all right, I lied. Please, let's get out of here, Yin. There's too many people around. Miro and Nejire are already waiting for us on one of the rides. The two of us walked together as I led Yin to Togeda and Haru. They were still standing in line for one of the rides when we headed towards them. They celebrated when they saw her. "Hey, Yin!" Mirio grinned happily. "Long time no see." "Yin-chan, Yin-chan!" Nezure called. "I'm so glad you could join us." "A million, Miss Surge," she greeted. "Thank you for inviting me to this amusement park. I've never been here before, and I'm really excited." "Come on now, we're all friends here. We don't have to be formal with each other," Mirio commented. "Friends," she repeated. "I like that." The only reason why I agreed to the amusement park was the idea in the first place was because I considered going to the Ferris wheel with Yin. It was my favorite ride, and I wanted to share my experience with her. That was one ride I really wanted to go on that day. So all I had to do was ask Yin if she wanted to go with me, but it was easier said than done. I used the background noise to my advantage to talk to her as Nejire and Mirio didn't hear us. I pulled her aside, speaking into her ear. "Hey, Yin," I began. "So I was thinking, after this ride, maybe you and I could..." Suddenly, Mirio made it very clear it was our turn by placing his hands over our shoulders, pushing us towards our seats on the roller coaster. I almost had a heart attack, and I was seriously considering my option of having Togeda as my friend. "Come on, guys, it's our turn." I tried to sit with Yin and ask her right before the ride started, but Mirio sat down before I was able to, stealing my seat. "Hey, Yin, make sure to hold on tight." I purposed myself behind them with Nejire next to me, slouching. I looked over at their turned heads as they whispered to one another, laughing. I still couldn't believe Yin was hanging out with us, and her presence alone made me nervous, but happy inside. "Let's go, Amajiki," Nejire smirked. "Turn that frown upside down." After going ups and downs on the rails, I was a little queasy, but I held it in. I saw Yin standing alone, though. As I made my way over to her, Togeda stood in between me and her again. "Whoa, Mirio, that roller coaster was awesome. I felt like I was flying. You had the right idea to go here first." "I know, right? It's my favorite ride." And I couldn't only stand there and watch them together from a distance. "Really? Mine too," I sulked, unable to hear more of their conversation. I turned around, facing them with my back as I stuffed my hands inside my pockets and walked towards the other direction. "What's wrong, Amajiki?" Nejire asked. "Are you okay? Are you sick from the roller coaster? There's a trash can right over there if you need one, you know." "No, I'm fine, Hado. Thanks." After a few more rides, we stumbled upon a food stand, not so far from the entrance. It had all sorts of Japanese street food, so I ordered myself dokeyaki. The girls spoke to each other, laughing and chatting from a distance, while I watched over Yin from behind, staring mindlessly at her movements before Mirio snapped me out of my trance. "So, Tamaki," Mirio began, "aren't you glad I invited Yin to be with us?" I turned my gaze to look at him, but he kept his eyes on the girls. Yeah, I admitted, but, it really has to be amusement park?" Mirio laughed, radiating happiness with a smile. "I've been talking to Yin ever since that interview," Mirio commented. "And let me just say she's an amazing person on her own. She's funny, smart, and really pretty. I've never met a girl like her before." I kept staring at Togeda for the longest time, knowing his eyes to where he was looking. And sure enough, he'd been gawking at you all this time. Mirio has always been good with people and easy attracts others with his good looks and chromatic alone. I've always admired him, but for the first time in my life, I felt bitterness towards my best friend. "I'm assuming you've gotten to know her too," Togeda added. "Right?" I simply nodded, swallowing all my respectful feelings because I broke down. "Yeah, I have." At around the same time, both Yin and Nejire walked up towards us with their snacks in hand, and while Nejire shared some of hers with Mirio, Yin stood in front of me as she held a pink drink in her hand. "This is really good. You want to try some, Tamaki?" I took the bottle from her hands and sipped a bit, placing my lips on the border before I gulped. Though, when I did, the handle of the drink back to Yin. I realized my lips had come in contact with her bottle when we drank out of the same container. I rubbed my lips with the tips of my fingers, shakily nervous as I stared at my first indirect kiss with Yin. It was all going too fast. Tamaki, she said to start a conversation with me. How long have you and Miriam been friends? You seem rather close. We've known each other since elementary school, I explained. I guess you could have said we're close, yeah. Oh, then what about Nedre? She asked as she nudged my arm with her elbow. You and her, are you? Hearing this, I panicked. I rapidly shook my head, worried she got the wrong idea about us. No, it's not like that at all. Yin, we're just friends, that's all, really. Yin chuckled, placing her hand over my shoulder. I was just kidding, Tamaki. You don't have to explain yourself. I looked away, hiding behind my bangs. But I had to. I mumbled, I don't want you to think I'm with her or anyone else for that matter. Then I glanced at Yin. Her eyes widened a bit, and for some reason she kept looking at the floor then back at me, as if she was tense. Oh, I see. Then what about your school days? What was your favorite class? Did you join any clubs? Unexpectedly, Yin kept asking me about my personal life, just like back in our interview. But the difference was she didn't ask anything about my job at all. I was so confused because I wasn't really used to answering those types of questions because nobody has really shown any interest in me. Oh, but you really don't want to know about that, Ian, I admitted. My life outside of work is boring and dull. You'd get tired of hearing me if I told you about it. What do you mean, Tamaki? It's not true, she proclaimed. I don't just want to know about Sun Eater. I want to know more about you. I was even more perplexed at how she was presented. But before I was able to answer back, both Togeda and Hado had already finished their snacks. Come on, let's go. Let's go. The others are waiting. Her words stuck with me all day. What did Yin mean when she said she didn't want to know just about Sun Eater? Being pro-hero Sun Eater was everything I was. Everyone who knows me claims they like Sun Eater. So why did Yin not want to know about him? I was so uninterested and awkward, but my hero title made someone. Whenever I put on the mask, I become mighty and bold and cool. I don't understand Yin's words, and I couldn't figure out her intentions either. If Yin didn't like Sun Eater, then she definitely wasn't going to like Tamaki Amajiki. Sometime after, the four of us stumbled upon a haunted house near the giant Ferris wheel at the center of the amusement park, and when we did, Yin stood in front of the scary building and smiled with her excited expression on her face. I don't think I've ever seen her so thrilled before. I don't know there was a haunted house here before. I used to go all of them all the time when I was a kid. It's been forever since I've gone to one. You do? Excited, Yin turned to me with a bright glow on her face. Yeah, I would always go inside when I was a little girl. I was a weird kid, she added. What do you say, Tamaki? Let's go inside. You and me. The second part of this episode will be uploaded tomorrow. Anyways, I love you all so much. Bye! Mwah!